right, so I'm placing my hands on my heart, taking in that deep breath of love and gratitude. So grateful for this time to come together to be the two or more who are gathered in the name and nature of love. Grateful for our willingness to open our hearts and minds to shine the light on any fear thoughts, anything that is blocking the flow of love. Grateful to know that as we bring it to the light is shining it away, dissolving it and resolving it back to the root source in all directions of time and space. We're so grateful for these teachings and to know that it is possible for us to live the life of love we were meant to live. We're grateful for all of our earthly and heavenly helpers. We ask that they join us now, surrounding and supporting us, blessing each and every one of us, all those who will listen later, blessing this call. And we're grateful that we get to share those blessings and all of the awakening awareness within us with everyone because we're one with them. In grace and gratitude, we let it be, and so it is. Amen. So, would anyone like to begin our sharing?
I just want to start and say, Robin, I just want you to see my fish wish my mom did. Didn't she do a great job? Did you see it? Okay, that's it.
Starting class with a laugh. Well, I would like to start with the very first paragraph in this From Darkness to Light, chapter 11, section 3. When you are weary, remember you have hurt yourself. Your comforter will rest you, but you cannot. You do not know how, for if you did, you could never have grown weary. And a couple sentences away from that, pain is not of him, for he knows no attack, and his peace surrounds you silently. God is very quiet. Always makes me think of Robin, for there is no conflict in him. Conflict is the root of all evil, for being blind, it does not see whom it attacks. And when I read this, I was so excited because it helped me to get a deeper understanding of my lesson for today, which is lesson 14. God did not create a meaningless world. Because anything that is making me weary, anything that is paining me or upsetting me, he did not create, and so that is not real. And even if I don't believe it in the moment, I have a deep trust that doing the lessons and stating that I do believe it. I do believe that God did not create a meaningless world, that all there is love. I really believe that. If I just say it out loud, if I just bring whatever fears are coming to my mind out loud and declare them not real, it's such a powerful statement, and it makes me feel like everything is possible. Everything is possible. So that's what I got just out of the first paragraph. I don't know. Does anybody else have anything else they'd like to share from the reading? Or any comment on what I said? Did it make any sense? Go ahead, Penelope.
Yes, I'd just like to say, Linda, that was beautiful. And as you spoke those words, just the vibration that I was feeling from those words then I felt, yes, everything is possible. So thank you for that, because that was just beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Carla, then Robin, then Leslie.
Wow. So that reminds me, I've created willingness statements. My favorite willingness statement, that I am willing to consider that what I thought was impossible is possible. So that was perfect. Thank you. One of the lines, actually two lines stood out, well, they all stood out to me that resonated, was turn the chapter in that section, paragraph 5, line 6, turn toward the light. For the little spark that in you is part of a light so great that it can sweep you out of all the darkness forever. And I think that linked up with another line in paragraph 7, line 9. All your brothers must enter with you, enter the light with you, or heaven or whatever. For until you have accepted them, you cannot enter. So it's seeing the light in me and seeing the light in everything, every experience, everyone, whether they can see it or not. And often in my life, because they don't see it, I kind of fell in with them. And so my focus is to allow them whatever they choose, but to be a light, so they were so bright they cannot help but see it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Robin. Oh, you're muted, honey. There you
Well,
are.
I mean, as you all well know, this just certainly, when it, going back to both you and Carla's, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But when it used the word weary, and I have been using the word depleted, and then speaking with a friend outside of A Course in Miracles, and just talking about the holidays and giving and desiring to just be the light with our families, but finding ourselves, and she coined joyful exhaustion. And I just loved it, but it's like, I really don't want the exhaustion point. And just in my whole life with everything, I just feel depleted and weary. And I know that it's coming from my lack of self-love and the truth. So you started this so beautifully, because I'm like, what is the exhaustion part about? And you kind of answered that for me. So I will go back. I'd like to think I can go back and write down, or just know in my heart, as Carla jumped over to, turning towards the light. And in my Quaker life, it's like, it is see that of God in everyone. That is the message. So anyway, I'm so glad to be here with this group this morning. Thank you. And this text, which I just loved. I loved all of it so much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Robin. You are the light.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have a dimmer switch on, maybe.
My light feels dim, and I am trying to. I actually wrote a forgiveness letter concerning all of this and where I am, which was helpful. And I have a one-on-one with Jennifer, and I think the best way I can express my ego and my light is to read that to her. I hope that will be acceptable.
I'm sure it will be.
Yeah.
It'll be perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Go ahead, Leslie.
Well, Carla sort of stole my thunder, but that's okay. We were on the same page. I also I had written down everything that she had said too, but also I really liked paragraph 3, sentence 1. Oh, my child, if you knew what God wills for you, your joy would be complete. That's comforting, even if I don't know it, God knows it. And then I also liked paragraph 4, sentence 6, walk in light and do not see the dark companions, for they are not fit companions for the Son of God, who was created of light and in light. I guess basically what that means to me, do not see the dark companions. Maybe I guess just try to see the light in everybody. If somebody's getting on your nerves, see if you can find their essence or their spark and find that place of non-judgment and know that our lights can bring out the light in others. And I thought that was really cool. And then just paragraph 7, sentence 10, you cannot understand wholeness unless you are whole. And no part of the Son can be excluded if he would know the wholeness of his Father. No part of the Son can be excluded if he would know the wholeness of his Father. And that's so interesting because the ego so wants us to be separate. I just think it's so funny that I can find myself, if occasionally, if I'm upset about something, then I'm like, wait, this is none of my business. And it's like I can get upset about something that's not even any of my business. And it's like, that's just separation too. And if us spiritual seekers have a difficult time, I guess I should speak for myself, feeling the wholeness, how can other people even begin to understand it? So I'm glad that we have Jesus as an example, and I'm glad that we're in this group together, and you all are helping me understand that we are all one. And it's taken me a long time to get that concept, but I think I'm kind of there. I'm close. I sort of go back and forth kind of, but I think I get it more than I don't get it. So that's progress.
Yeah. Thanks, Leslie.
Mhm.
Carla, did you have something to add? Oh, you muted yourself again. There you go.
Okay. All right. So what came to me is when you're talking, Leslie, the dark companions are the thoughts offered to us by ego. Those are the dark companions, because every time you focus on that, every time I focus, I'll speak for myself like you did. And so every time I believe a dark thought, an untrue thought, whatever it is, that, oh, they should be this, or life should be different, or whatever, something should be, anything different than what it is, those are the dark companions. And we like hugged in a way, we're like saying, yeah, come on. Whenever we believe the thoughts, we're embracing, I guess, the dark companions, and that the light companions are the thoughts we think with God, love, compassion, truth, anything we feel good about. So that I liked your share on the dark companions, because that's what triggered me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Carla. Phil, it's
Yeah,
good to
thank
have
you,
you,
Carla.
by the way.
Even though Leslie stole my thunder, not all of it, but some of it, I'm going to continue. It's on my book, it's the sentence after what Leslie read. The great light always surrounds you and shines out from you. How can you see the dark companion in a light such as this? If you see them, it is only because you are denying the light. And I like how Carla said that dark companions are our thoughts. And yes, and it's not just only embracing them. In my case, I cling on to them like they are my saviors. And I allow myself to be so deeply steeped into them. And, it is so soothing and comforting to know that the great light surrounds us. And even though I know that intellectually, when it comes to practice, sometimes I'm so steeped in with, and I have befriended the dark companions, that light seems false and the dark companions feel real. So this is a great realization that, how my dark companions keeps me little and keeps me circling around, like, spiraling around in the same space and getting back to it, instead of when I have that bright light that is ready to get me out, I say, oh, well, let me marinate a little more.
Yep, because we created them. Crazy, isn't it? Who else would like to share? Go ahead, Leslie.
I know this, we already talked about this a little bit, but I want to give an example. And that was just paragraph 5, sentence 6. Turn toward the light, for the little spark in you is part of a light so great that it can sweep you out of darkness forever. And I like thinking, and thank you, Carlos, so much. That really helps a lot to think of dark companions as your untrue thoughts of the ego, and the light companions are thoughts we think with God. I had a little example of that yesterday. I'm not going to go into a lot of details. Basically, I had a standing appointment at 7:45 in the morning for years, for like over 12 years for something. I found out yesterday that it's going to be changed to like 8:30, which is really inconvenient for me because of my work, and I got so upset about it. And I took it so personally, and of course, ego started going crazy. And when I went and I was just in a bad mood all morning. And so I went for my walk, and I was doing the Ho'oponopono, and I was doing the violet flame over and over and over, because that really lifts me out of a bad mood. And it's like, I've heard this so many times, but like clicked for me. It's like, you're unhappy because you're resisting reality. I was resisting the reality of the situation. And Eckhart Tolle, I always remember this line: instead of complaining about a situation, if you can change it, change it. If you can't change it, accept it. I can't change it. I mean, I can be grateful. I have a very understanding boss, and it's okay if I'm going to be late. I can be grateful that other people are getting help, and okay, so my time is going to be different. There's good in that for me. And I just felt like that was really bringing the light to the situation, when I could embrace reality for what it was, instead of my ego wanting to tell everybody and get everybody on my side. And I even said, well, I've been coming here for 12 years. Well, I mean, they didn't really care. And basically, this has to do with the doctor's appointment. And I used to feel like they cared about me. And the one doctor has passed away like 4 years ago. And this place now is, I mean, I just sort of felt like a part of the cattle, part of the herd. I didn't feel like anybody cared anymore. And the truth is, maybe they don't. It doesn't matter. The fact is, other people are getting helped at this clinic now. And it was just really interesting to see how my ego wanted to be special and how I wanted to defend it. And once I was able to bring the light to the situation, I had such peace, and the rest of my day went great. And I feel in a super great mood today. And it'll be interesting to see how it all turns out, because you just never know. It's not like I have to go on Mondays. I can go any day during the week, and I don't think they know that. So like I said, that doesn't even matter. That's just form. But ego really wanted to have a temper fit, and it did for a little while. And And I'm glad I was able to bring the light to it.
Thank you, Leslie. Yeah, I can totally relate to that. And first of all, the first thought that popped in my head when you said that about the appointment getting changed was, again, and I come back to this over and over and over again, that example of Gary Renard in Disappearance of the Universe, where he chose the crappy movie. And they said, the reason why you went to the crappy movie is because if you would have gone to the other movie, you would have got out at a different time and been in a car accident. And you didn't need to have that forgiveness lesson anymore. All you needed was to have the forgiveness lesson of having to see the crappy movie. And I know I've had so many examples, and just a silly one that happened just this weekend. I had a prayer partner call with Phil on Sunday morning, and we ran a little over, which was fine. And I had an exploratory call right afterwards. And I thought to myself, like, I really would like to go to the bathroom, but I know this call won't last very long. So I'll call her, I'll do this, and then I can go to the bathroom afterwards. And I called her, and my exploratory call lady, and she said to me, can I call you right back? I have to go to the bathroom. I'm not kidding you. Was like the first words out of her mouth. And I'm like, okay, Spirit, thanks. I get the time to go to the bathroom when I needed to. And it's just silly things like that it's like, when I'm not pushing against things, everything just flows perfectly. It's so beautiful to witness it, even in the silliest things like that. So thank you for that. Carla.
Let's see if I remember. So my sense is the ego, which is really the I thinking that I probably gave my power to for maybe lifetimes or whatever until I'm here now. And I recognize that that part, that thought system, uses everything in our life to dig us. And I told you the story about the woman who doctor told her to go walk every day, and she was going to walk, and she said, mine said, oh, you went far enough, you did what the doctor said, you can turn around now. She turned around, and the second she turned around, the mind said, what, you're turning around, you quitter, you're all this stuff. So the ego thought system uses everything, no matter how it looks. So, and I want to address, Leslie, your thing, that an experience I had, that my neighbor allowed me to plant something that kind of encroached their property about a foot. And so for 20 years, I had these berries that was kind of on their property, but then he sold his property to another person. And so after 20 years, I chose actually to move them. And for a while, ego, whatever it is, the mind tried to keep on me like how awful it was that I had to move them, I had to do all this work, and now they're in pots that aren't, the best for me and stuff. Where here's the truth. I had 20 years of having that there free. And I mean, he was like very, very accepting of it. And it's like, so that's what I want to focus on. I want to focus on that I had a lot of time with what I desired. And so things change. Everything changes. Oops, my alarm's on. Everything changes. And when it does, that's when the ego gets us, because things change. And so now I embrace the change. I welcome the change. Come on in, change. Welcome. Thank you. Come on down. So that's what I do now, is I welcome it. I'm like, thank you. You're such a beautiful guest. I'm like, I love it. So I just speak to it very differently. So that's all I want to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Penelope. And then Rand, I think you may have had your hand raised too.
I've got a confession to make, because yesterday I was just in a total grumpy mood. And I didn't, even when I was giving it over, I kind of wasn't, I don't think I was really completely willing. I don't even know if I was even a bit willing. So this grumpiness just didn't really change. And I could come up with a list of reasons why I was grumpy. And it was, you know, like all crazy reasons. I mean, one of the reasons was because I had to be up really early, and I don't like getting up really early in the winter when it's cold and dark. And my husband and I needed to leave home by a certain time to get out, to do what we needed to do in this town nearby. And it actually included going and having some lunch at a really nice place as well. And then coming back, we needed to be back by a certain time because we were receiving a delivery. And all the while I was like, in my head, I was just grumpy. The interesting thing was, everything just flowed perfectly. Nothing was a challenge. And it was interesting because when we reached the town centre where we needed to be, my husband will often say to me, oh, what order do you want to do things in, or whatever it might be. And he often relies on me because he knows that I'm getting guidance. So he just goes with it a lot of the time. And even though I was in this grump, and he said to me, oh, what order? And I said, let's do it. He said, do you want to do it this way? And I said, no. I said, let's do it this way. And again, everything just flowed. We'd go into the store where we needed to be, and it was just done with such ease and grace. So there was nothing for me to be complaining about, but in my head I was just complaining about, and it wasn't even specifically what was going on in front of me. It was just I was grumpy. And I literally was like that throughout the day until finally, and it was about, I don't know, 7:30 in the evening, and decided to do some Tai Chi. And finally, I shifted where I was at by actually moving. But yet, for whatever the reason, I decided yesterday just to hang on to it. And it kind of, when I think about it, and I was doing some gratitude work this morning, and I was saying to my husband afterwards how grateful I was, how well it flowed. We had this lovely meal. And it absolutely fascinated me that I could be that grumpy, and yet everything just flowed. Now, the other thing that I'm thinking of, and somebody might want to respond to this, is what kind of karmic seeds was I sowing yesterday? So that's like, oh.
I don't know, for me, what I got from that story was, even though you had the tiniest bit of willingness to hand that grumpiness over to Holy Spirit, even though it didn't appear to leave you on the physical and mental plane, still everything flowed so smoothly, like it wasn't going to give you anything else to be more grumpy about. And at the end of the day, you could see, well, even though I didn't feel like I was that willing and apparently wanted to hang on to those feelings, everything still unfolded perfectly. So I could be grateful for it later. Like, just an example of how tiny bit of willingness we need.
That, Linda, is a different perspective, because I honestly thought, well, I'm handing it over. And it's only now when I look back at it, I think, well, yeah, I was handing it over, but I didn't feel like I was being all that willing. And so, yeah, maybe even just that little bit that I was doing, it was making the difference, but it just happened to be that I needed to hang on to it till when I hung on to it, which obviously I did because I hung on to it that long. But yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, Leslie, go.
What I thought of, Penelope, was that your spiritual bank account is so full that it was just like a teeny droplet of and I love what you called it, being in a grump. That's so cute. But your spiritual bank account is just so big that you know, you've done all the work. You've done all the work. It's, oh, you know, so if you have one day where you just decide to be grumpy, your day's still gonna to go as smooth as can be. Ease and grace. You earn it, girl. You do.
Thanks, Leslie.
Robin.
Yeah, Penelope, I love that story, and I kind of agree. I just feel like we are still, you know, we are these spiritual beings, but we're in the human body, so we're still trying to do this dance. And there's so much willingness in you because you are here with us right now. It is there, even if you feel like you're not being the teeniest, tiniest bit of willing. It's in you. You know, you keep showing up for your spiritual self. And somehow there was grace there, you know, so just be joyful and grateful for it. And I don't know, does that make sense that you, just like Gary, he had done enough work that he didn't have to experience some deeper forgiveness lesson, that you have done enough work that your day, even though your personality felt grumpy, there was that spark within you that knew better, and you had some reserve.
Yeah, thanks, Robin. Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess I'm just not trusting myself enough. And I think also, well, the two things I could also add there. Actually, I was really grateful to do the forgiveness work, not the forgiveness work, the gratitude work on it this morning, because I was really grateful. When I look back at yesterday, I was really, really grateful how it had worked out, given how I felt I was in my head. I just kind of thinking, no, I don't really want to play with that on a regular basis and kind of tempt, you know, something more than just ease and grace.
Yeah, thank you. Phil and Carla.
Thanks for sharing that, Penelope, because I'm seeing actually the divine perfection to it. In that, you know, you went through it and you could share it on the call this morning, so that it made a lot of sense to some things that I'm going through too. And it's not that I want to be in that grumpiness, but I seems to be unable to take it off. And so for me right now, just to trust that there is divine perfection to it, because I might be able to use it for somebody to help somebody else. So thanks for doing. And thanks for going through the grumpiness.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. Carla.
Well, it's interesting. I'm staying a little longer this time because like 10 days ago I broke my ankle.
Oh, golly.
And so I'm in a wheelchair. It's so amazing. I mean, I was listening to you, Penelope, and I was thinking, it was coming to my mind. It's like I told Angel, I'm like, yeah, we should have movement therapy, you know, Kundalini yoga, movement therapy. That you should like, that's how you should do it. And then when you said that, when you moved, when you did Tai Chi and moved, it moved through you. And I'm like, yes, movement therapy. It's really good. And I wanted to say, and it's my own little personal story, and it's similar to yours. That when I was just walking in the kitchen, and I turned my ankle, and it made a little interesting noise, and I fell down, and I'm like laying there like, oh, I'm not walking on this ankle. I'm like, and then I crawled into the kitchen. It was exhausting, and that whole experience, I won't go into it, won't take too much time, but it's so amazing. So it's really what you're sharing, Penny, is that even though it seemed like something else. It was actually divine. It was perfectly divine. You know, I live alone. I couldn't drive to the hospital, and I happened to be texting with my neighbor, and they came over to my freaking messy house and took me to the hospital, and I was in the hospital for 5 days, and I called my friend David. Now he's here helping me. And it's just interesting how now that I'm more peaceful, even though it didn't seem like when I was crawling on the floor to the couch to my phone, it didn't seem very, and my ankle freaking hurt, that it was very wonderful, right? Yet everything so happened so amazingly. Like, it's even so amazing. Years ago, I got service connected because my right ankle, I broke my right ankle years ago. And whoever thought, now I'm in the hospital, my right ankle is broken. I'm service connected because of my right ankle. Everything is paid for. I got food 3 times a day. Someone to come in and take my vitals every 4 freaking hours in the middle of the night and stuff. It was all paid for. And it's like, it's so amazing. Even when things don't seem like they're anything beautiful, they're really beautiful. Because once you move through that, the of it, whatever it is, you see it. And you're like, yes, it was actually perfectly divinely created. It was like wonderful. So probably gonna have to leave in about 10 minutes, but thank you. And I just wanna share that. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. I'm so glad you're back. And I can say that um, listening to your story and then afterwards how you were explaining it, it's like, if we thought about it, it could feel like it was a spiritual bypass to go, oh, everything's perfect and everything's, divinely organized, and maybe we weren't feeling that in the moment, but at the end of the day, when we can feel that, it's not a spiritual bypass because we're feeling it within our hearts, and like every part of our being is believing it, even though in the moment we weren't really enjoying what was happening. Go ahead, Phil.
I think that also triggered another thought for me was like, Lisa Natoli says, don't get into the place of fixing. When you're going through it, just notice what is going on and allow what is. And, and the best part of this whole thing is, at least for me, is noticing without judgment. I'm very good at saying, why am I feeling this? I shouldn't be feeling like this. I need to get out of this as quickly as I can. But, just letting it be and noticing it without judgment and not in a hurry to fix it. So which would be the spiritual bypass. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Carla, go ahead.
One last thing, and I think I text this, Penelope recognized this because I'm going to share this because I was shown that every experience is just an experience. Then we give it meaning. We give it yay. And even that's a judgment. Like, yes, this is excellent. And so this is what I wrote. From the way of mastery, the power of choice is the one power that can never be taken away from you. If someone drinks, drugs, or kills, or whatever, kicks your dog, do not join them in the vibration they are choosing. Just remember that it is their choice of how they are learning. Stay in your own vibration. Do not join them in theirs. By judging their choice, that is when our vibration is lowered. Not by their choice, but by ours. So stay connected to love. If you cannot love them, love is the highest vibration. If you cannot love them, find something you can love. Pets, food, babies, a picture, the ocean. So I don't know, that just felt, I just wrote that and it seemed like it was so amazingly clear. I just wanted to share it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Yeah, and I can attest to that. I just last night, yesterday was way busier than I would normally like. I've seemed to have had a lot of days like that in the last couple of weeks. And I didn't ever get a chance to make my coffee. I like to have just one cup of coffee every day. And I never got my and it's decaf because I get heart palpitations from regular caffeine coffee. And so I didn't get to drink my coffee, and I went to dance class. I got home around 7:30. I ate some dinner, and I was still like, I really would like some coffee right now. And Spirit kept telling me, don't drink it. Just wait till tomorrow. Don't drink it. Just wait till tomorrow. But I didn't listen. So I had that coffee last night. God, it was probably 9 o'clock, which I'm normally in bed by 9:30 or 10. Even though it was decaffeinated, there's still a little bit of caffeine in it, and I'm not used to drinking a lot of caffeine. I was awake until 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I was up at 7. And so I'm feeling a little like I have a hangover today, but I'm just like laughing at myself about the whole thing. And it's amazing because even though I feel like I've had a bit of a hangover, my mind is so clear and I'm still able to do all the things that I need to get done today. And I think it really is because I found that higher vibration of looking at it like, Jesus said, Spirit told you, don't drink the coffee. You drank the coffee. So now just laugh at it. It was just a lesson. You got to enjoy your coffee. You didn't get to enjoy your sleep so much. So, yeah, but bringing that higher vibration is allowing me to go through my day as if there's absolutely nothing wrong. Getting 3.5 to 4 hours of sleep is normal. So it's funny. Raise the vibration.
That's a perfect example of you're not the body, right?
Right. Exactly. Yep.
Or just the body, I guess.
Yeah.
Can I just quickly ask Carla, have you not got a cast on the ankle then at all now?
No, it's really a very interesting experience because so it's broken in 2 places, really. They said they tried to send me home they didn't even offer me crutches because I have balance issues. So they gave me a walker, and they gave me a walking boot and a walker. I'm like, you're crazy. I'm not walking up the 6 steps to my house with a walker and a broken foot. No way. And I'm like, and so, no, I don't have it. And it took me a little while. It was a very amazing experience. At the time, I was a little discombobulated, but I was patiently told him, I said, look, I'm okay. You discharge me, do whatever you want. I'm going to live in the lobby for days until until David gets here to help me. And I said, because if you send me home, it's going to be a safety issue, and you're responsible if I get hurt worse. And then they gave me a room as soon as I brought up the safety issue. It seemed kind of disturbing for about an hour, but this is so interesting. I just was patient and said, and once I told them that, and they, I don't know, it just all worked out. I didn't have to really do much except be present. Yeah. No. So I have the work here right now.
Yep, you've got a lot in your spiritual bank too, Carla. Time for a withdrawal every once in a while, right? I did want to mention too that our friend Deborah is not here today because her power has been out for a couple of days. So I told her it was perfect because we're reading From Darkness to Light. So her power has to come back on. And I look forward to getting to send her this recording. Does anybody else have anything to share from the reading or from anything else? Go ahead, Robin.
Well, I haven't. Oh, I always enjoy our conversation. I had something happen to me yesterday. I had every morning I read. Bye, Carla. If you're leaving, I read Jesus Calling is one of the reads I have in the morning, and it talked about how we make our plans, and I mean I think we're all kind of in this place of knowing we can make our plans, but to have an openness because Spirit has other things probably. And I like to think that the other things, and it talked about surprises, and I'm like, yes, I just love the joyful surprises, and they're just like little blessings and miracles, and it's like God is with me, now how bad I'm feeling. And so I had a plan for my day, and one of them was that in the afternoon I'd be writing this forgiveness letter, because Diane and I are doing that in our prayer partnership. And and that was going to be Monday evening. And so I'm going along with my day, doing my whatever's planned. And I get a call from my son, who's like, he said, this is like, all right, what's wrong? Because I don't get calls in the middle of the week or the middle of the day. And I said, what's going on? He said, well, anyway, my daughter-in-law is pregnant, and he said that she's showing some bleeding. He was very calm. They had some kind of part of that happening on the weekend, and it called, and they were told just to watch it, and she thought she was fine, but yet and immediately you go like, what? But I'm like, I said, I'll come, because she's got a 3 and a 5-year-old. And he said, thank you so much, Mom, that would be great. But it wasn't like they weren't calling, the nurses hadn't said, call 911. It wasn't that. So he was at work. She was going to drive herself. And when I got there, she seemed fine, but they're just checking this out. So she leaves, and the 3-year-old was napping, and they both had colds. And I'm like, Archangel, take care of me. So I was putting, so when I went over, I was saying a blessing prayer and holding everyone in the light and calming myself down. And beautifully, I didn't really get freaked out. I just immediately started getting quiet. And I mean, there was that instant of like, oh no, I don't want this. But I said, oh, well, this is surprising. This is what I had planned. But it did start thinking about surprises, what I would quote as good and not so good. And so I had that hanging around. And I was in there. And so I was at their home and doing laundry and wanting to be with my granddaughter for some one-on-one. And I was doing the laundry or putting the wet clothes in the dryer. And I'm like, well, this is not really am I being punished? I was going through all of these, why is this? I don't want these surprises where I'm like happy. This is not. And what happened? Somehow I said this, I accepted. And I thought of you, Linda, because of your experiences with your husband and your mother. And I hold you in high esteem because I was like, boy, this is what's happening to me. You know, it's because I'm not going to stay in masterful living. And now just, and I thought of you and the things that come your way and how you lead and model trust and faith. And it just turned me around. And it turned out that, my grandson woke up. I mean, it just was beautiful. It was just lovely. And so I'm just bringing this up because, as Carla was saying, and I know this, and even as Penelope tells her story, and it just everything that everyone shares, that, I don't know what anything is for. And I think when I think of spiritual wholeness, that I just imagine everything flowing and going well. And yesterday, to get a call that your daughter-in-law, who's going to have a baby in April, is having blood, that is not something you want to be taking in. But she called me up. She said, I'm on my way home. Everything is okay. And I trusted that everything would be okay no matter what. I just had to put myself in that place, because that's what I get from A Course in Miracles and Masterful Living, is that you just have to put yourself in that place of acceptance and stay calm and quiet. So I don't know. I kind of rambled there, but thank you all for being here.
That was
And
beautiful.
for the teaching and the learning.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That was a beautiful example of bringing yourself back to your center where the truth is. Thank you.
The fact that my grandchildren were there was like, I gotta get, I gotta get centered up. And it was just done so easily when I just, stopped bemoaning that this is putting the laundry in the dryer. This is not what I was wanting to do. And it really, then the thing with the little boy that woke up, and I'm like, all right, now I've got two of them, and I'm just like, and it just was, and saying, now I am really being present for these two children. And it just locked in, and then things unfolded so sweetly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it reminds me of that. I think Carla read it earlier. One of us read it earlier in this, in paragraph 3, where he says, "Oh, my child, if you knew what God wills for you, your joy would be complete." And then a little further down, he says, "Out of your joy will create beauty in his name, for your joy could no more be contained than his. The bleak little world will vanish into nothingness, and your heart will be so filled with joy that it will leap into heaven and into the presence of God." And that's what you did. Beautiful. Thank you, Robin. Mm-hmm.
I'll just want to say one thing that I'm finding, that joy is quiet. It's just this joyfully quiet accomplishments. I call them accomplishments because it's another time that I feel heaven.
Yeah.
And it always just feels so quietly done. And I can go, yay, and share it, or I can, just, or just keep it and know it and add it on.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
It reminds me of, I was listening to an Abraham Hicks video a few days ago, and she was talking about coming to a place of satisfaction, and where she was going on a trip and the car came for her at the perfect time or something like that, and she was so satisfied because the car came at the perfect time for her to get to the airport on time. And when she got there, like, there were no really long lines for her to have to go through, and she was so satisfied with the ease and grace with which all of it was unfolding. And then she got onto the plane, and she was sitting in first class, and she was so satisfied sitting in first class. And then one of the flight attendants came up to her and offered her a pillow and a blanket and a hot washcloth and some hot tea. And she was like, I was just so satisfied. And that's the place where I would like to live from, where everything is so satisfying, and even the little bumps in the road, I can be like, okay, it's a bump. That's all right. In the next moment, I'm going to feel so satisfied with how this is unfolding perfectly. I know I'm going to see it. I'm going to feel it. I don't know. And that's that willingness too, like Penelope was talking about earlier. It may not, the tiniest little bit of willingness where you still may feel a little bit not quite your spiritual happy self in the moment, but then afterwards you're like, oh, wow, that was so satisfying.
And look at the willingness that Penelope had the next morning and sat with gratitude. So
Yeah.
there, it just took a few hours.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong in just being a bit of a slow learner or catcher on, or is there?
Yeah.
And actually, I could also finally say thank you to my husband for paying for lunch for us.
Oh.
Yeah, gratitude, better late than never.
Exactly.
Robin, I just want to say your share was beautiful as well. Every share has been, it's that same theme from everybody, everything that's been shared. And it is a real celebration of the spiritual work and the spiritual bank account. It's just so beautiful, because even in that tiny moment when you began to think about, well, this isn't the kind of surprise I was expecting, but you were just able to just shift in that moment and think, you were doing the laundry, it wasn't really what you were thinking your surprise was going to be. And then the great joy that day still brought for you in many ways, because it isn't just it was the time you had with your grandchildren, but also that what happened at the end for your sister, for your daughter-in-law, that was,
Yeah.
It's such an example, all these different things that we've discussed today, of just that real celebration of life and the beauty of everything. And there is such beauty in life no matter what. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Penelope. Okay, quickly, because we're at time. Go ahead, Diane, and then Robin.
I'm going to be really quick. I just wanted to say thank you, everybody. I've so enjoyed this call. I've had a few nights like Linda's last night, and I felt like this is such a beautiful group. I could come anyways today, even though my mood is quite down, and I really don't quite feel I can share, but I felt like, oh, it's such a lovely group. I can just show up and listen and be part of the group. So I just want to thank everybody for your shares.
Thank you, Diane. Glad you're here. Go ahead, Robin.
Well, I know I'm talking too much, but my share was that not only I had this beautiful experience and satisfaction about the results that I came home and I wrote my letter, and then I was able to read it to Diane, who just gave me just utterly beautiful feedback. And so the afternoon just, I mean, more joy just kept flowing. And
Yeah. Bye, Leslie. Anybody else have any last share before I read from our Pathways of Light? Next week, we'll just continue with chapter 11, the inheritance of God's Son. What could be better than that? So we'll just continue with that, section 4. So my reading today in Pathways of Light workbook insights is from lesson 14, God did not create a meaningless world. With this lesson, Jesus is bringing us an important step in our process of returning to love. Love, our source, is changeless. Love is eternal. Love is formless. Love is everywhere. Love is all. Therefore, what is not love is an illusion. It is not real. Imagine making or projecting thoughts that are unreal, different from love, can never really replace love, even though it appears to do so for a while. Part of the waking up process is to clearly recognize that making up images of a world of separation is not real. Separation is not of love. Separation is the opposite of love. Separation is not a sin because in truth, it never happened. It could never be real. Separate bodies could never be real. Private minds could never be real. This world that appears so real to us is not real. Thank goodness we could never make separation real. Thank goodness we are still love. Thank goodness we are still as God created us, and dreams of separation mean nothing. I need to apply this lesson constantly in my life. I need to remember that only love is real. I need to be willing to let my mind be healed today. It is worth the diligence. It is worth the practice. Heaven is my true inheritance. This substitute is not my home. Returning to my true home requires that I forgive or let go of what is not true and could never be real. The idea and exercise for today can bring up a variety of emotions. For some, it might be a relief to know that God is not the cause of the death, destruction, and injustices we perceive in the world, because then we do not need to fear God. For others, it may be a shock and raise more questions. If God did not create this world, who did? Who is responsible for all of the disaster and pain and suffering in this world? The hidden meaning behind responsible is blame. The ego is always looking for something or someone to blame, to project guilt onto. The shock comes because this idea challenges what we have been taught to believe. Others may experience dismay because this idea undermines the sense of identity that comes from believing we understand, or at least partially understand, what the world means and how it came to be. It can lead to questions like, if God did not create this world, why am I here? Am I meaningless? These questions also stem from the ego, trying to establish an identity in images that are not real. Some of us may experience all of these emotions and more when we face the idea that God did not create a meaningless world, and so it is not real. Yet this idea helps us open our minds to new meaning, to the recognition of God as love and nothing else. It also prepares the way for us to recognize ourselves as love and nothing else, for we were created by love. At this point, it is not necessary that we recognize the full import of this statement. That will draw upon us as our minds are open to the loving instruction of our inner teacher. At this time, we need only practice the exercise, trusting that it will do its part in opening our minds to the recognition of ourself as God created it. Holy Spirit, wash me clean of sin and doubt. Allow thy love to fill my mind and heart. allow the love of my beingness to extend to the meaningless world I made in separation. Thank you, everybody. Just want to say, if you could keep in your prayers the folks of the Philippines. One of our coworkers has family that lives near that volcano that's erupting. So just want to hold them all in light and love, and surround them with angels to protect them all. So I will see you next week. Love you all. Bye for now.
Thanks, Linda. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Diane.
everybody.
Hope you get some better sleep, honey.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.